Let's get started. Look, I'm supporting you.
Oh,
Oh,
I should have put
shit.
mine on. Oh, well, it's too late. Okay. I just got my Damn That Scary one in today too. So
Oh, that's
Boy.
funny. I didn't get one.
I ordered it.
No,
He
it's
didn't-
fine. No,
Nobody
you,
sent it. I
you don't
ordered
have
it
to lie. You
I
don't have
ordered
to
it
lie.
myself. I swear to God, it was like $22.
It's been so long since I've talked to Micah, I don't even know his name. This is, oh my God, she's still laughing. See, I try to like be professional, but This is Slashers, your favorite horror podcast about your favorite horror media. I'm your host, Mikey, and with me today is my esteemed colleague, co-host, and cohort aide. And joining us today is our very special guest and an extension of our podcast family. Welcome, Austin, also known as A-Town from the Frightmares podcast. Boys, say hello to the mutant goons from beyond.
Hello.
Did you just say boy?
Yeah.
Hello? Like I know you
You
copy my
did.
spiel, but you don't have to
Yeah.
copy the whole spiel.
I thought it was funny because I was like, I was listening to the Anaconda one, and you're like, boys, say hello. I was like, oh, that's cute. And I was like, wait, that applies to everything because she's the only girl. So I was like, I'm gonna do it.
Whatever. It's okay. I'm
Oh
an
my
honorary
God.
I'm an honorary boo friend. Sorry, I kind of
Yes.
spit into my microphone. I got too excited with that line, I guess.
I never spit. But anyways, how are you guys doing today?
Aid, ladies first.
Oh, thank you. I thought it was a boy, but it's okay. Doing fabulous, I got to see my cousin's twins today, so that was a lot of fun. Because I don't have children of my own, so there's that.
Boom.
Well, you never know. Life's still going on for you, Aiden. I'm just kidding. I know you don't want kids.
My eggs are drying as we speak, so
My goodness.
How's it going with you, Austin?
Oh, it is going pretty well today. In preparation for this episode, I did extra homework, and not only did I watch Ringu, but I watched The Ring, the American remake. So I am all ready to go for today's episode. Whole bunch of shit to talk about.
He's all lubed up and ready, y'all.
I'm ready.
Okay, well, like Austin said, today we'll be reviewing the 1998 Ringu, directed by the only... where did I write his name? Hideo Nakata. He's also known for directing Dark Water, the original one, Ring 2, and Ring 2, the American version, which I thought was really cool. Of course, he's done other things, but those are just some notable call-outs for things that are kind of related to this film or things that are popular that were remade in America. But before we get into it, I do want to talk about any 90s films we want to give a special shout out to. Whoop, whoop. I know this is the last episode of the 90s November, so I'm going to ask you guys, and I guess I'll go with Aid first since Austin wants to be chivalrous, even though this podcast is known for being misogynistic. Aid, besides the movies that we've called out already or that we've discussed already this month, what are your go-to 90s films that you feel need some love for 90s November?
Oh, well, we all know my first and foremost, my go-to 90s film is The Rage Carrie 2, because it's like literally my favorite movie.
Yeah.
And Bride of Chucky, those are my go-tos for the 90s.
Yeah. Sorry I didn't prep you for this, Austin. But do you have some 90s movies you'd like to shout out?
Me? Oh, I wrote down like 14 of them, so I've got plenty. I won't say all of them. I wrote them down because I couldn't decide, but definitely Child's Play 2. That was actually from 1990. That's one of my favorites, and it's also my favorite in the Child's Play universe franchise. Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight. That's another solid one that I feel needs some love. And then I'll mention two more, which would be, because you mentioned Bride of Chucky, which is one of mine. I love that one too. So there's a movie called The Dentist, which is fucking hilarious if you've never seen it. It is so wacky and wild. It's about literally a killer dentist. So you'll never see anything like that in your life again. And I will throw out Lake Placid too, I think that's from 1999. And that's one of my all-time favorite creature features. So
I've only seen the first one. I haven't seen Lake Placid 2. But the
No,
dentist.
I think he meant Lake Placid also.
Yeah.
Oh,
I didn't even catch that.
You are such a shit, Mikey. Oh.
my 90s films that I would like to give a special hour to is hang on my notes. I had to like restart everything.
Oh, no.
But and this is of course besides like Scream and everything that already gets all the ejaculate from everybody. But The Relic, Mimic, Wishmaster, and recently added because Adrian and I saw it together for the first time, Colobos. I thought
Oh,
that's a great 90s movie.
yeah. Oh, is that 90s? Nice. I have that one. Yeah, I
Mhm.
still gotta watch that one.
Colobos.
What is it?
Colobos. I don't know.
Colobos.
They say a bunch of dumb things in the movie, but we say Colobos.
Lobos. Okay.
Yes, because we are from the South. Um, however, back on track. It's really easy. Well, first of all, have you guys seen Ringu before? Or is this your first time viewing it?
Okay, I thought I had, but apparently I haven't. So I must have been confusing it with The Grudge or something. But yeah, I could have sworn I'd seen Ringu before tonight or before today. Have not. So this was new for me.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I've never seen it because I had never seen it before because I had seen the remake so many times. Like I've watched the the remake. Say that again. I watched the remake so many times back when it came out. Like once it came onto video, it was ridiculous how many times I'd seen it. So, I never really thought to watch Ringo. And plus back then, like in the early 2000s, like nothing was really streaming yet. So it was hard to get your hands, I think, on the Japanese version of this.
Yeah.
Or if it was easy, I didn't have access to. In 2002, I was like a freshman in high school. So, whatever. And so I have seen so many things on it, like so many documentaries. In fact, they just talked about 101 scariest movie moments. I think it got in the top like 20, actually.
Nice.
I don't know. I can't
Oh,
remember. But
Okay.
yeah, they were talking about it. And then I wanted to see it because I saw that, oh my God, Scorpion is in it. Hello. So
yeah.
uh, but but yeah, I'm only watching it at the behest of Mikey. So
Mm.
Well, this was my first time watching it as well. And like Austin, I thought I actually saw it already, but it was either a sequel or Ju-on, which is The Grudge,
Yeah.
but not even the first Ju-on, because all I remember is a red bouncing ball. Whatever movie I saw was revolving around a red bouncing ball. And my friend and I, this was probably like 2009, 2010-ish, we're like, we should watch the original Ring because we've seen the remake, and so we saw this movie that was not this movie. And I don't know what the fuck it was or why I thought that was The Ring. It might not even be The Grudge. But I watched that interview show, Hot Ones. I don't know if y'all have seen it, where they get celebrities to eat hot wings. And it's fun if you like the celebrities that are on it. And they had Kate Blanchett, I believe, on, and she's a huge fan of horror movies. And they asked her, "What's your go-to?" Or like, she said Sam Raimi, but she also said Ringu was the first movie that like scared the shit out of her. Like she had to watch it on fast forward. So when I was watching that, which was like maybe last month, I was like, "Oh, I should watch that." And then when the opportunity came up to watch 90s films, I said, "Let's watch it." I will open by saying it's really easy to compare this one to the remake, but I'm going to try my best to do like comparisons after we talk about the remake because I think the remake does need some respect to stand alone. But in the beginning, I almost thought it was a shot for shot remake because I was like, this is exactly what I remember from The Ring. But just to give some info on the original, it came out in 1998, January 31st, 1998. It was on a 1.5 million budget, which I believe is considered low budget. And it made 19 million, which is pretty good. At the time of its release, it was the highest grossing horror film in Japan. Excuse me. The competition for that time would be Phantoms, The Curve, Deep Rising, The Lake, Prophecy Part 2, Devil in the Flesh, starring Rose McGowan, Fallen, and then the rest of the year we had The Faculty, John Carpenter's Vampires, which is funny story. Actually, I was part of the podcast. I don't know if you remember that I tried like pranking Jake into thinking John Carpenter's new movie was going to be a sequel to Vampires, and he like freaked the fuck out and admitted that Vampires was like one of like he really likes Vampires even though everyone hates it. I was like, I was just
I like that
kidding.
one.
And I was like, I
I
was
love
just kidding.
I love vampires. Oh, poor Jakey Poo.
I thought he was going to be like, oh, what the fuck? Because there was that article that John Carpenter's going to come back for 2 more movies before he finally retires. Anyways,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Bride of Chucky, Strangeland, Urban Legend, Halloween, H2O, starring my future husband, Josh Hartnett, yeah. Blade,
Hartnett.
Psycho, Carnival of Souls, the remake, which was terrible. Spiral, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Species 2, Apt People, Sometimes They Come Back for More. Children of the Corn, Part 5, starring Eva Mendes. I see we want a special call out for the Latinas. Practical
I
Magic,
know.
Disturbing Behavior, Phantasm 4, Deep Impact, Practical Magic, Practical Magic's on there twice. Aid, I swear to God. X-Files, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. But looking at this list, this is, I don't know if it's considered competition because I don't know if Ringu had a theatrical release. Maybe like in Japan, they took some of these movies and showed them there, but I don't think they actually showed Ringu here unless I just wasn't paying attention. Do y'all know if they did or not?
It's tough to say, you know. I mean, it seems like it would be something they might, but I don't know. Film was totally different back in like 2002 or 1999. I mean, shit. So I don't know if it was that common to have foreign movies play in theaters. So it's
Yeah,
possible, but if it might have been very limited if it did, because if it did well over there, then they might have brought it over here. But I'm not sure though. That would be something to definitely look into.
No, I think if it did well enough over there, that's what kind of sparked. I was reading it sparked the American remakes, and
Right.
not just of this film, but of Juwan and Dark Water and all of those other films, right? So I don't really think that they were playing like commercially here the way they would have been playing in Japan and probably other Asian countries, simply because we have the remakes here. So those, I don't know. I don't know. That's actually a good question. We probably should have done more research, but this is what I
eh,
got to. Hello.
research,
Okay.
me search.
Google Doc over here. That was me. So you wouldn't have all that pertinent information if it wasn't for me and the fact that I have no life. Anyway.
I would have had it because I said specifically, I will write up the notes tomorrow. And then Adrian comes around behind me, like the sneaky Hispanic Latina woman she is, and says, Oi, I already put it up there on the Google Docs. And so that was my impression of Aid.
Why do
Um,
I sound like Scarface?
you you sound like Cartman's J-Lo. Taco taco
Hmm.
burrito. Um, taco flavor kisses. But anyways, so I can say that because I am Mexican. Austin, you
No,
can
that's
say that
fine.
because I give you the pass.
Oh,
Austin's like, I'm not saying that.
no matter what you say, Mike. No.
Again, it's Hispanic, not his piece. So we
Exactly.
continue.
The runtime is 95 minutes. And so just speaking about this original, because I haven't seen any of the sequels. I think I saw the American sequels, but I haven't seen the Japanese sequels. But watching Ringu, the first thing that I noticed was the cinematography is like very vibrant and beautiful. I really like the way that it looked.
Mhm.
The concept is original for that film at that time. As we know, it continued on with a bunch of long-haired girl phenomenons killing people. And then the original, this one goes a lot deeper into Sadako, I believe that's her name, right? Um,
Yeah.
it goes into her background a lot more, which I thought was cool. Um, and then one thing that I noticed is they really like to emphasize that she didn't have nails because they came off when she was digging herself out. And I thought that was really effective also, that like her hands looked like they had no nails and they were still raw. It was pretty gross. Um, but essentially, if you've seen the remake, you've seen this movie. There's a couple minor differences, um, but it's unfair for me to judge this because I saw the original when it first came out, and it takes everything that Ringu is good and makes great. And I might get shit for that, but I really think the remake is far superior than this
I
movie.
I can agree with that. I can agree.
And also,
Yeah, I agree.
it's called Ringu, but they don't even show any rings. Does Ringu mean ring in Japanese, or did we just make that up?
No, so
It
what
sounds like something
actually,
we do.
Yeah.
but when I was actually doing research for it, they gave it different names for different countries, and the in America it's called Ringu, but that's not the name of it in Japan.
Oh.
And I think that yeah,
Well,
there
yeah,
was a
that
whole,
happens with foreign movies. They'll give them like same thing with American movies. They give them different titles in different countries. So that makes sense that the original title for that movie is not actually okay. That
and
tracks.
I forget, it's something, it's in my notes at the top somewhere, but I mean, um I think that they did incorporate a ring in there because the son was drawing it on a piece of paper at the very end of the film. So that's
Mhm.
really the only time that I really see the ring. I feel like it's a lot more prevalent in the remake, like the image
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
ring.
And I mean, you
Uh,
do see you don't really see a ring, but there's that shot from the well looking up at the father, and you get a circle, but I mean,
Yeah.
you don't actually get like a ring, you just get that POV of the well. So it's not really
mhm.
entirely the same thing, but
But I
yeah.
think that's like, speaking on behalf of the remake, I think that's brilliant because you have all this imagery of the ring, and then when the girls or when the anybody dies, the ring, like a ring, essentially like blows up in their face, and then you finally realize that when the ring is the sun coming through the top of the well.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really cool. So just kind of another example of why the remake is superior than Japanese does a lot of things better than we do. But
Yeah,
this movie isn't one of them.
well, and that's the thing. I was a little disappointed because when I started it yesterday, it was on Tubi. I go, oh, good, I'll just watch this because we're doing another movie for Patreon tomorrow. So I had to watch two movies yesterday. I'm like, oh, I can watch this one first because it's on Tubi. Yay. And I was, it was a gloomy day yesterday. I dimmed the lights in the house and I just put it on thinking it was going to be scary because the remake is scary. The remake
Mm-hmm.
is one of the few
Hell yeah.
PG-13 films that I couldn't sleep for days. I kept like seeing her in the
Mm-hmm.
corner in my bedroom.
Bitch.
Yeah, and I just kept like it just gave me nightmares. I was horrified. Like that
Yeah.
was, I don't know why that movie scared me so much. And so I was thinking, oh my God, well, this one's supposed to be way better. So I couldn't wait for it. And while you say the cinematography and the imagery was pretty, I think that's to its detriment almost because it feels very like a vacation-y tropical environment. And there's not really, aside from the few times it rained, there wasn't a lot of like gothic or dark imagery in the film to kind of cast you into that like being scared kind of tone.
Yeah.
Because even when like they're watching the shitty cassette tape, it still wasn't even as scary as
Yeah.
the remake had done. And probably because we didn't understand like the whole thing with the eruptions. I think it's a lot of it has to do with our cultural differences as well. And so that's probably why I feel like it wasn't as, because a different cultures, different things scare you, right? So they had all of that wording and talking about the eruption of volcano, but we don't really have, I mean, aside from Hawaii, like when do we deal with volcanic eruptions here? And also like you can't read Japanese. I don't know what are their letters called. You can't read that. You can't read those
Yeah.
characters. I can't read it. So
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck the thing is saying. I don't know what's going on. So
When it was
and I'm
moving and
dyslexic.
when it was moving and they like froze it on the TV and they're like, oh, you can't read this on a TV. I was like, I can't read it any even if it was clear. So girl, I'm with you on that one. Um
It was just like it was too bright and cheery. Like it was like it looked great, but it was also like most of it was taking place in the daytime. And I'm like, that's why I think Seattle was the perfect setting for the ring because it was dark and dreary and they had that like kind of greenish blue filter over the camera. And it just like that entire movie just looks it was perfectly like aesthetic with the subject matter. And I just think the Ringu was just like too bright and happy for like a scary, supposed to be a scary movie.
yeah, and they didn't use sound to their advantage because every time it would say the date in Ringu, they would use this creepy sound. And I was like, yeah, more of that because that scares me. The
Yeah.
scariest part of the movie is when the dates come up. I will say if I was to have seen it at the time without, if I was 1998, if I went to the movie theater and watched it, what probably would have scared me is her coming out of the TV at the end, um, forgetting the remake. But that was, I don't know if at that time anything like that was done. I know it's based on a novel that it was influenced by Poltergeist, so maybe that's where that motivation came from. But
Oh.
it's very creepy. It reminds me of when we talked about All Hallows Eve, when Art the Clown is staring at you through the TV, and you're like, "The fuck!" Like that probably would have been really scary. And I acknowledge that it probably scared people when they were young. But again, since we've seen it already in the remake,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that the only difference between because the remake was scary enough as it was when she came out and stuff, but it's a lot more dramatic too, right? They had all the bells and whistles for the remake. With this one, her coming out, it was very slow, and answering the phone, and you can see her coming in the background. And I think that it was just so much more effective than the remake. But I remember that part still being the most horrifying thing, because especially when her hair opens and you finally see her face, right?
yeah,
And the same thing with this one. And so, I just think that at the end of the day, it- I don't know. I think it's just a cultural thing. Like, I think it's just that we just don't get what's considered horror there, right?
yeah.
And so, I mean, it was scary and in fact, that wasn't even the scariest part for me. The scariest part for me was at the very end when she turns off the TV or something, and she sees the ghost in the reflection,
Oh,
and like I screamed,
yeah. The ghost
and
like pointing at the bag. I was like, no.
and that's him, right? And
Right.
he's pointing at the bag, and that was the scene in the video, and I'm like, oh my god, right?
Yeah.
But like this one had so much more. Like, we know there's like supernatural things happening in the remake, but it's very subtle, and it doesn't, like, not everybody plays a part in it. Like, for instance, this film, Scorpion has like ESP, and he can see ghosts, and that's why the little boy has it too. But they don't really talk too much about the little boy. Like, I feel like the little boy has a more front and center part in The Ring, and it kind of makes more sense to say why he has these powers. He has these powers because his dad has these powers, but they don't have that obviously in the remake. So I don't know. What did you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think I like the Ringu. They explained that guy, I can't remember his name, but I'll just say Scorpion, that he had the powers, and I was like, oh, that's interesting because the boy had them in the remake, and then Samara had the similar powers, and then they also said that the mom had powers too in Ringu, and that was interesting because Samara's mom didn't have that at all. She was just because I think they adopted Samara. I think that's what happened in the ring, or they said that she was adopted, and she just started going crazy, killing horses and all that shit. So she, like, the mom killed her, but there was no like psychic connection between the two. So I kind of like that they did that in the Ringu. It was weird. It was like they made totally separate choices in both movies, but I think that they both worked to a certain degree. But I did wish they fleshed it out more in the Ringu because they mention it, but then they don't really like go into more of that. It's just kind of a few things with Scorpion, and that's pretty much it. So it was cool, but I definitely wanted more of that.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I mentioned about kind of liking in Ringu more than Ring is her background. Like when they're showing the video of them kind of quizzing the mom on being psychic, and the guy who starts challenging her and calling her out dies. And then she's like being escorted off, and she looks off camera and she's like, "That was you, wasn't it?" And she's talking to her daughter. That was actually really cool. I thought that was creepy. So I did like the background story there because we had like a different one in the American one, which was it was fine. Um, so overall, what was your guys' view or opinion on the original 1998 Ring? Goo.
Goo. Hey, go ahead.
Okay, you know what? I was a little disappointed. I expected a little bit more as far as tone and, it being scarier. I wanted it to be scarier. I don't think it was. I think that, you know, I think it was good for what it was. It was good for the time, and it was something that we hadn't seen before. And the author of the actual novel, Koji Suzuki, like Mikey had said, like got a lot of inspiration from the Poltergeist, which a little girl getting sucked in the TV, yay. However, Carol Ann was not a sadistic murderer. But also it's based on Sadako, or this ghost, or this image is like based on all of these different like Japanese folklore, or Japanese like legends about ghosts, and the ghost of Anryu, and I don't know if I said that correctly, Anryu. So she's usually female, and she's a ghost that manifests after dying in the grip of a powerful rage. It materializes as a very physical spirit to seek vengeance on the living. And so that's the same concept with Juon, or the grudge, right? So this is all like part of their culture. So I think it's important to like kind of talk about that, because we kind of have to take Sadako and, shift her into Samara when we get to the remake, because she has to fit our type of, like what would scare Americans, what would scare, people from, whatever. So I just thought that was interesting. I'm sorry, I went on too long.
No, that's good. It's a really good
or Austin.
No, it's a really good call out, because if Japanese and all other countries have their own folklore and their own ghosts. There's the woman with the big scissors. There's a bunch of movies that cover specific Japanese spirits, and it's kind of like if we made La Llorona and then we released it in Japan, they're probably going to be like, well, that's probably
a movie.
Yeah, like I don't understand what's so scary about a woman crying in a river. Whereas if you go show it in Mexico, everyone would be flipping the fuck out. But anyways, Austin, what is your
thoughts? So there was times where I was disappointed, mainly with the parts that are more gory in The Ring, like the reveal of Katie's face, fucking horrifying, has stuck with me since I've watched it. And then the reveal of the other things, like what's his face? Noah's face, same thing, like horrifying. So when they, and even the beginning of the intro to The Ring is very creepy and mysterious, and she goes into the room, there's all that water everywhere, she opens the door, and you can see her face kind of distort towards the end, and then it just cuts to the next scene. When they did it in Ringu, it was just like it went up so quickly. Like the TV turned on, she turned it off, and then she heard scratching behind her, and then she turns around, and then it freeze frames, and I was like, oh, is that like it? Is that where we don't get like some crazy thing? So I was kind of disappointed. Like, okay, I guess we're spoiled because they made it a little bit spookier here for us. But then there were other times where I was like, ooh, that was cool. Like I like how different they are, but they still hit the same exact beats at the same time. It's very weird. Like, so I really enjoyed that about the Ring. So I enjoy, or the Ringu. So I enjoyed the differences because I felt like they did a great job with that, but it just wasn't as spooky as I thought it was going to be. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. So all around, I still enjoyed it. And I gave it a pretty solid ranking because I still think it should be respected for what we got in America. Because without that movie, we wouldn't have The Ring. So I gave it a 4. Like it was more like a 3.5, but I gave it an extra half star just for like, okay, I respect you as a movie. So I thought it was still a good time and I enjoyed it, but that's not really anything compared to my rating for The Ring. So we'll get to that in a minute, though.
Yeah, it's exactly what you said for me as well. I was really excited to watch it. I was in the mood. I set the tone, and I was like, okay, I know where this is going because I've seen the remake. We got the two girls. One of them watches the video. Just kidding. No, she didn't. Just kidding again. Yes, she did. And then, yeah. And then she turns around because the TV's on, and then she goes wide-eyed, and we get the freeze frame, and then we get like the superimposed image of her. And I was like, oh, that's what it's gonna be. It's like when you're hooking up with someone really, really hot, and then you finally go back to your hotel room, and they don't know how to kiss. It's just putting their mouth on your mouth, and it's just tongues going like this, and you're like, oh, but like you keep going because you're like, I guess this. I gotta finish
Maybe
this.
this will go somewhere better, I don't know.
Just get it over with.
Yeah, so
rip it off like a Band-Aid.
Exactly. Do the Texas twist, and then hopefully it's quicker done, You can
In
leave.
and out. Bye.
Yeah, mouth of the South, put it to use, and then get out of there. But so right after that first part, I was like, okay, maybe we'll see something cooler later. And then I was just kind of bored. But I know, Austin, you like to rate things, so I will rate this a 3 out of 5.
Okay.
But again, it's not fair to Ringu because The Ring is such an important, even though it's not my favorite movie, it's such an important horror film in my life because that was the first time. It was PG-13, 2002, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
2002. Yeah,
So I was
it was
in,
12.
oh, you poor summer child.
Oh, baby.
I would have been either a freshman in high school or in 8th grade, but I
Okay.
saw it with my friends by myself. Fucking scared. Well, first of all, I remember falling down the stairs when I was going up to our seat, so that was embarrassing. But
Oh
then,
no.
yeah, I know, poor me.
Oh, you saw it in theaters.
Yes, bitch.
Oh
And it
man, that's even better.
and for like every night for the next week, we would all call each other on. Everyone would three-way everybody, so we had like a group call, and we couldn't sleep, and we were so scared. So like that feeling and that, me and my friends just saw the scariest horror movie we've ever seen up to that point. It's ingrained in me. And so it's not fair to like show me something what it's based off of and being like, oh, okay. Because you're right. I think it's Danielle Panabaker. Was that the girl from the beginning of The Ring?
No, it was not her. Hold on. I know
The blonde or the brunette?
The one that dies in the beginning.
Oh, Katie.
Oh,
Katie.
Amber.
Yeah.
Amber.
Amber Chamberlain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amber
Amber
Tamberlan.
Black
Yeah,
Bear.
you know, she reminds me of Panna Baker too. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I would have said the same thing. Go ahead.
So when she died and they show her face, because even they were, because they don't show it right at first. Naomi Watts is at the funeral and they're like, her face, and then it did that
I saw
flashback.
her face.
Yeah, and
With
it's
that
the
fucking
flashback, and she's like, "Arr!" And it's so quick, and like you're in the theater, so you can't pause and rewind. So you're like, what the fuck was that? Like, it's just so good. And the setting in Seattle is so good. And also, I don't mean this in an offensive way, but part of when they're watching the video, first of all, the video has creepy sound effects, which makes it more effective than the video in Ringu. Like when it starts, you hear like that. So
Yeah.
there's a horse eye because you find out later that something happens to a horse or that she fucked up horses. And so in the original one, they had like this guy's eye that looks strange. And I was like, that's not a horse. But I think so. I was confused because the first time it was so quick, I was like, is that the horse eye? But
Okay, yeah, no, it's just there were so many more things that they had added, and I think too, it's not detriment. What's the opposite of detriment? To its advantage. Oh my God, sorry, I had a brain fart. Cut that out. I think to its advantage, the remake at least took what didn't work and what worked with Ringu and adjusted it in The Ring, because in Ringu they keep mentioning over and over that the one girl that was her best friend who was with her went crazy. They keep talking about it, but they never show her.
That's
but they
right,
show a lot of
they never show her, and you're like, why didn't we go into that at all in any sort of way? Yeah, I thought that was weird.
exactly, because we go into it in The Ring, we see her, she goes and visits her, and I think that's more effective, and it was a more well calculated scene to have, versus in Ringu. Why do we care about the student coming into Scorpion's house and messing up the equation on the chalkboard? Like, who cares?
She was
right?
she was in that scene, and I think one other one after that. So like, what's
she
the
finds
establishment?
his dead she finds his dead
She
body,
finds
but
the
it's just
body.
not
So
important.
I
like,
mean,
it's not
no,
so weird.
like
If
they didn't
anything, it
even.
makes
I
him seem like a
thought
creeper who sleeps with his students.
That's what like, that's kind of weird. You said student. Why is she at your house? That's weird.
yeah, she's like bringing groceries and shit. So what is
Yeah.
she like? And so maybe they're trying to imply that he's sleeping with her, or she's like a girlfriend too at the same time. But all of these, like every Asian girl in this movie looks like 14 to me. So I'm just like, is there like, it's just, like, it's weird. It's just strange. I don't know. It was just unnecessary. So going to see the girl who going crazy, I think is horrifying, right? Because when Naomi Watts goes to see her in the remake, she's a complete hot mess. Like, it just shows you that she witnessed what happened.
Yeah.
And they all think she's a fucking nut now. And I think that's what we needed for them to believe, because I feel like the chick in Ringu, Asakawa, Asakawa.
Mhm. The mom.
The mom,
Yeah.
yes.
Beautiful,
Not
by the
Naomi
way.
Watts. Yeah, she's very pretty.
Yeah.
But I think that, like, she was just like, so, like, right away she believed it, right? Because she took her picture and that was it. Like, she believed it right away. Like, I think Naomi Watts was still on the fence for a lot of the time, which is why she let Martin Henderson watch the tape. And by the way, he was so hot in that movie.
Yeah, he was.
Oh my God, Martin Henderson! What a gorgeous, gorgeous man.
He can crawl out of my hole.
And give me a ring.
I just watched him in X, and I was like, "Holy shit, that is!" I was like, "I can't believe
him."
it."
Yeah, and
Yeah,
he still
plays
looks
the
good.
Oh, yeah, he does look really good.
You
I
still
always
look
thought he
great.
looked really good.
Running around in his underwear, damn it.
With the cowboy hat on, I'm like, all right.
He could still get
it.
I'm picking up what you're putting down, Martin. Now bend over. No. Anyways.
Yeah.
God, I gotta put this way.
And also, I mentioned it briefly earlier, but the scene on the ferry with the horse, that's a fucked up scene also. And also, can we talk about how The Conjuring is rated R just for being scary, but The Ring is PG-13? I'm sorry, but The Ring is far scarier than The Conjuring.
I don't know how that got passed. Seriously, I don't know, because I mean, there's no swearing, obviously. I think there might be one F, because you're allowed one fuck in a PG-13 movie, but I don't know how that is not R-rated. Seriously, because that's why we all watched it. Like, especially me. I grew up in a Christian household, and I was like, "Oh, mom, I can watch this one. It's PG-13." She was like, "Sure, whatever." Worst decision ever. Scarred for life.
She
like,
goes and picks up her traumatized son.
Like, yeah, I'm just like, oh, it's fine. I wasn't expecting it to be that fucking scary. So I think that's what happened to a lot of us as kids. We saw it because it was PG-13. We're like, this will be mild. And it was not mild at all. So I don't know how they got away with making that PG-13, but
I know.
think
it's like when you meet a skinny dude with a huge horse stick.
Well, you know what? But that's usual, though. Skinny guy. Anyways.
Well, I know, but it's like you don't expect it. And you're like, ugh.
And yeah, none of us expected it, because I remember my uncle was babysitting us that night, or just hanging out that night, and my mom and dad went out, and me and my brother were watching it. My brother's 3 years younger than me, so he was like 11. I guess he was Austin's age, right? So
yeah, I was 12.
And literally, and right after, I'll never forget this. Right after she watches the cassette tape, the phone rings, right, in the film.
Yeah.
My fucking phone rings in the living room.
It's over. It's done.
And my uncle pauses the movie and he's like, "Well, that's fucking weird."
Yeah. I wrote down in my notes, there's something so scary now about the way landlines ring. I don't know if it's because of Scream and The Ring and everything, or all these movies where landlines were like your worst enemy. But now, even like on the cell phone, we'll have a landline ringtone. If you play it, I'm like, I get triggered.
Yeah, I think that's pretty common for us millennials with phones ringing, because it's usually never good news on the other end in horror movies. So
no,
or spam,
or spam.
Yeah. And that was another thing too. I didn't like that when she answered the phone, you just heard that stupid noise.
Oh, and Ringu.
And Ringu, but she didn't whisper anything.
Nothing.
And the 7 days is horrifying. Like, you know, one of my best friends, he teaches at another school. So whenever we have 7 days left at the end of the year, he calls me on my extension and he's like, 7 days. And then he hangs up. And I like, there's just something so iconic about that. And to not have that in this film is just, it's so weird, strange to me. I mean, and it doesn't call anybody except when they're in the cabin.
I was actually gonna mention something about that. So they did mention that in Ringu, that it only calls in the cabin, and same thing in The Ring. Because if you notice, she gets a call in the cabin that says 7 days. She goes home, Aiden watches it, but she doesn't pick up the phone, and no one leaves a message. And then after Noah watches it, someone calls too, but there's she doesn't. There's no one on the other line, or it's like someone else. It's someone else that calls. So she doesn't ever call and say 7 days again, except for at the cabin in the remake. And I didn't catch that until this watch.
Huh.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't know that
Yeah,
either.
they subtly did the same thing, but they just didn't say. They didn't actually establish it in the movie. It just that she only does call at the cabin, which like I said, I did not pick up on until I watched it because I was looking for it this time since I had just watched Ringu. So I
Yeah,
found that kind of interesting. I was like,
that is
Well,
maybe,
cool.
you
yeah,
just watched it, so I have a question because
yes,
I didn't rewatch The Ring. I rewatched it a few years ago because Dan had never seen them, so we watched all of them. Because
nice,
I think Rings was coming out, so he wanted to see the other ones before.
yeah,
And so, like I said, I've seen so many. I'm like, but what always was a plot hole to me, and maybe I'm wrong, was that after she copies the tape and shows it to Noah, um, she's still going through all of that, all of those visions and seeing all of these things and all this crap still happening to her, right? But
mhm,
that should have been when the curse for her stopped. So why is she still experiencing all of these things? So did she still experience, like, you remember, like she pulls the thing out of her mouth
yeah,
and then like her nose bleeds, she pulls the fly out of the TV, all of these things that are indicating she's, Samara's coming for her.
right.
So when does it stop in the remake? Like, I can't remember because I feel like they still happen to her, but after Noah's watched it, it should have stopped, right?
See, that's the thing. I don't know if it's like a chain of events that, like, because yeah, maybe it stops when he dies. But yeah, no, that is interesting. I didn't even think about that because if she did make a copy once he watched it, which was pretty early in the film, I want to say. So yeah, then she shouldn't be plagued by all the imagery and stuff like that. Oh man, I didn't even catch that.
There
So,
goes
Now
Aid ruining everyone's visions.
ooh, man, that
but
is interesting.
because like that's what I feel like. Because I think maybe in Ringu, it
Hmm.
didn't really do that to her anymore after Scorpion watches it.
Yeah.
So, that made more sense. And then the only thing, last thing I want to say that I think the funniest part of the ring, and maybe you guys know what I'm talking about, like when the TV hits her and she flies down the well, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
isn't that like it's such a like it's fucking funny?
No,
Like
it's funny.
I was laughing my ass off when she falls in the well, and I was really disappointed that it didn't happen in Ringu because I'm like,
Yeah.
crap.
Oh,
Like,
speaking of the well, because yeah, what were they trying to do in the well in Ringu? They were like getting buckets and like
Oh, I know. I
like
was like,
what?
she has 3 hours left. Let's find something else to do. They're
Like
trying
just
to
just
feel
drain the
feel
around.
well.
around.
Yeah, why are we fucking doing buckets? I thought that was so dumb. I'm like, this makes absolutely zero sense. Why
Yeah,
are we taking the water out? It's fucking knee level. Just feel around.
yeah,
God.
that was ridiculous. Um,
Very passionate about that. It made me so mad when I was watching it. I was like, can we just let's move on? This is taking too long.
Yeah, and then she passes out. And that was another thing too with her, like her character. She was always so excited and like yelling and like just
yeah,
like dude, just the energy was just not matching, I think
it was
the
very like 50s acting. Um,
yeah, I didn't enjoy the
I will
acting.
never
Well,
go
aside
hungry
from
again.
like Scorpion was good,
Yeah,
right? But I think that's why he's in a lot of movies now. I think
he
she's in
was
other
good, but he
movies
was not
too.
likable.
Oh no, yeah, he was a prick. Like he was mean to her the whole movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he slaps
And
her at one point when they're trying to when she's or he's trying to get her to go in the well and she's like, I don't want to. He just bitch slaps her. I'm like, oh Jesus Christ.
well,
That's a
yeah.
little much.
she wasn't
Like it's a
listening.
little late for you to carry about your goddamn son that you abandoned, you piece of shit. So
Oh
like,
no,
what
I
is your
don't think he
problem?
was even like one time. Maybe we should all die. And I was like, ugh, please. Um, I don't have anything to say about the sequels. Do you guys? Honestly, I don't remember them. I didn't see Rings.
Well,
Yeah,
Rings sucks. I can tell you that much. That's like the one where they try to modernize it with like a USB thing, and it's not great. Ring 2, haven't seen in a while. I remember liking it, but it's obviously not near as good as the
Yeah.
first one. But I remember it being like decent.
So the thing with Ring 2 is that I remember at the time liking it, but I think it's because it was coming off the heels of The Ring. We were excited for a sequel. There was a lot of really good effects in Ring 2, like especially the way her contortions and how she's climbing up the well and stuff.
Oh yeah, that was creepy.
So creepy. And just the part where what's her name? Wilma Flintstone, why can't I think of her real name? You know who I'm talking about.
I know the actress you're talking about. Yes.
Elizabeth
There
Perkins.
you go.
Sorry, Elizabeth Perkins. When they make her stick the needle in her and she dies. Like,
Oh
the air
yeah.
bubble from the needle. Oh, that like I hate that. I don't know why that when people die like that in movies that bothers me so much.
It's gotta, it's gotta be the most weird, painful way to die. Like getting like that happen. That's not gotta be good.
The
Does not sound
stupidest,
like a
yeah,
fun
it's just
time.
like the stupidest way to die. Like it's so easy to kill someone
Right?
like that. Like, oh my God. And so, that bothers me, but does it hold up? No, it's very corny. The
Yeah.
dialogue is corny. The whole thing with the mom and the son, whereas I like the fact that Rings strays away from them because I feel like their story is over. Like it's done. And there's a Ring Part 3, isn't there?
Not to my knowledge. The Japanese, they have a Ringu 2, and then Ringu 0. But it's just Ring 1, 2, and then Rings for at least that's I think so, unless they did like a straight to DVD one.
I
Okay,
don't
let me
think
look
there
at
is.
the Ring series. So we have the
There
Ring, we have Rings, Ring 2. Yeah, that's weird.
there is one that I want to call out that y'all haven't mentioned and I really enjoy. Have y'all seen Sadako versus Kayako?
Oh, I was wait. Okay, I was gonna mention that one at some point, but yes, I have, and it's fucking awesome. It is so
I
much fun,
thought it was going to be stupid, but
right?
it was legit and
It
it
was so
had
much
legit
fun.
scares.
Yeah,
And I don't want to spoil anything, but I loved what happened at the end. Like
yeah, that's a
it's
good one.
it's up there for a versus movie and it doesn't get enough credit. So if you guys haven't seen it, I highly recommend watching that. It was on Shutter. I don't know where it is now.
I think it should still be on. Let me check real quick. But yeah, that's where I saw it. I'm pretty sure it's like a Shutter exclusive, or yeah, it's on Shutter currently right
Mhm.
now, so you can check that.
Oh, and if y'all don't know, Kayako is from The Grudge. So essentially, this is The Ring versus The Grudge.
Yeah, it's like one of those mashups you think is gonna suck, but
It's
is
so good.
yeah, it's just so fun, and they have a lot of fun with it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's a good one. I'm glad someone else has seen it, because I was gonna mention it, because like it's not a very well known movie, kind of just like slipped under the radar. So
Which is so weird because I watched it thinking it was going to be so dumb, but I was
same,
like, this is good.
this is fun.
Yeah,
I like this.
me too.
If only they could have done that for Ringo. So anyway.
Well, we are coming up on the hour, and I feel we got a pretty juicy, great conversation here with the Ring series. Ringu, sorry we didn't love you, but we respect for what you did.
I do have respect for that movie. For
Yes.
sure.
Mhm.
Full respect. All right, Mikey, what would you rate the Ring?
Oh, 4 out of 5.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
I'm at a 4 or 5 out of 5 for that one.
maybe just the nasty sled in me wanted more gore. Like, make it R.
Yeah, if it was
Let's be
R, we
gross.
would have gotten some. Yeah, we would have gotten some good shit. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, PG-13, but I think that the imagery alone and the tone of the film and just the
Yeah.
atmosphere that it creates is just scary enough. Like
Yeah.
it's one of those that you don't necessarily need all of the bells and whistles to make it perfect. And it's still scarier than The Conjuring, in my opinion. And it's interesting because even Ringu was rated R. So I don't know how they got away with it for this film,
Yeah.
especially the
dude,
fact
it's a
that they
mystery.
show a child being murdered. And once I feel like they start showing murdered kids, that's where it goes into R rating territory, right? Because Samara, she puts a bag over her daughter's head and
Yeah,
suffocates her. And
Yeah.
well,
it was just as visceral watching the Dr. Ikema or whatever, like do like bludgeon her over the head, right? And
Yeah,
the
but the sound effect was ridiculous.
oh, that
oh
sound effect was a bit silly. Yeah, like literally, like
Yeah.
wow, soundboard effect, nice.
Yeah.
Um,
What
oh
do you
man,
rate what do you rate the remake, Aid? Out of 5?
Oh, the remake, yeah, I would say 4.5 out of 5. Like It's really good.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
You know,
for
and there's
sure.
another podcast that I follow that keeps like hating on Naomi Watts, and I'm like, what is wrong with Naomi Watts? Because I think she's great
She's
in that
great.
film. Like,
Yeah. And Mulholland Drive.
She is
Hello.
great.
Speaking of other podcasts, what I want to find, I don't know if there is any, or maybe, I don't know. I want to get early 20-year-olds opinions on these movies to see if it still holds up for a new generation. I'm not going to show
Oh,
my
like Gen
13-year-old.
Z?
Yeah, I'm not going to show my 13-year-old niece, and have my sister get pissed off at me if she can't sleep. So I'd rather ask, if there's a horror podcast out there and you guys are in your early 20s, let us know, and maybe we'll do something and get your opinion on the second half of these movies that we love as kids.
Yeah.
yeah.
That'll be good.
Yeah, but anywho, Austin, thank you so much for joining us again. It's always a pleasure to have you. If you want to listen to Austin's podcast, Frightmares, you can find it wherever you find your podcast, wherever you find us. You can also find him on Facebook. What's your group called? Frightmares Podcast? Is that just what it's called?
On Facebook, it's just straight Frightmares. Look for the skull and headphones.
It looks like
That
this.
is us.
Mm.
Yeah, it does.
That's for the video viewers if you're on YouTube. Sorry, everybody. Mikey
Yeah.
just flashed the camera.
Yeah,
Ooh.
with my
Ooh.
glorious pumpkins, RIP Halloween. Adrian, if people want to buy our merch, where can they find it?
Well, they can find it at slasherspod.redbubble.com. And you can find anything from hats, t-shirts, jock straps, Mikey's signed underwear, you know, whatever floats your boat has a goon
Yes.
show on it. Jake's actually added some new designs. So if you guys haven't seen him yet, get on there. Stickers, mugs, travel mugs, pillowcases, clocks, notebooks, all kinds of bullshit. We have way too much crap on there, but whatever, we just want you to have it, and so we really have no markup for it. We don't make any money on them, so please go out there, you know, get something cute and rep us out in public. That'd be wonderful.
Yes.
You guys got clocks?
Yeah, we do.
Shit, I might
Oh,
need
clocks. Sorry.
Yeah.
Or
naughty boy.
I know.
You naughty boy.
I know. Why do you bring it out in me, Austin? Jeez, you're so dirty. But you can also feel free to just share any of our social media posts. We'd love that as well. You can find us on Instagram at SlashersPod or Mutant Goons from Beyond. You can find us on Facebook at Mutant Goons from Beyond. And TikTok SlashersPod. If you want to support us monetarily and give us a little awa, feel free to find us on Patreon. Just look up SlashersPod when you go to Patreon. And we have tiers starting at what, $1? $2?
Yeah, $1 to $10.
Yeah, $1 to $10 with different perks. So look it up and join our crew. Anyways, we love you guys. On behalf of Adrian and Austin from Frightmares Podcast, we would like to wish you a goodbye and good die.
Bye.
Bye.